Hello and welcome back to the Tuesday afternoon radio show. Glad you could join us in this 4 o'clock hour. Hey, we've been having these continuing conversations about Ukraine and about what's going on there and how we can help and the organizations that are actually helping Ukraine during this time of attack and of need from Russian forces. So to continue that, we're going to be speaking to Anna Allen, actually Dr. Anna Allen today, and she's going to tell us what she's doing and some of the organizations she's involved in and kind of give us an update on what's going on. Anna, how are you today?
I am doing well.
And speak to me about a little bit about who you are and what is your connection to Ukraine and the local organizations that are trying to help Ukraine.
Thank you, Randall, for continuing this conversation about Ukraine. I feel it's very important, especially now when we are on the eve of 4 years since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine started on February 24th, 2002. I am one of the co-chairs of Ukraine Solidarity Capital District, which is a grassroots organization in upstate New York. And we try to organize events and awareness as far as the ongoing war in Ukraine. And also try to collaborate with other organizations that also devote their efforts to Ukraine, such as Ukrainian Congress Committee of America, which is very active in the Capital District as well as Medical Relief for Ukraine, Brave Children Ukraine. Kind of these different organizations try to do and organize different events, maybe aimed at a little bit different topics, but all had to do with supporting Ukraine one way or the other.
Now, I often ask this question because I think that people don't really understand, what's going on. I think people all feel empathetic and want to help, but can you give me an update about what's going on and what are the real needs and most pressing needs right now in terms of the Ukraine civilian population?
So the war is going on, the full-scale war. It really has not gotten better since 2002. I would argue that it's actually gotten worse for Ukrainians. This particular winter for the civilian population probably been the worst because this year Putin had increased damaging the energy infrastructures as being the power plants. Like by now, there is not one power plant in Ukraine that has not been damaged by the Russian drones or missiles hitting it. And the other thing that they're targeting this year is the heating systems. Like in USSR, big apartment buildings usually would have it's sort of a centralized heating factory that will then pump heat to several large apartment buildings, sometimes as many as like 500 of them. So if you take out one of these stations, you will have hundreds of apartment buildings without heat. And this winter been particularly brutal. They actually have very similar weather to what we have this winter, like the temperatures are essentially identical. So as you imagine, if you have no heat and no electricity, it creates a very dangerous situation for, just people to survive. The pipes freeze. So in many situations, the rescue sort of teams, they had to drain water out of the buildings because there is no heat and everything will just freeze. So it's difficult, and a lot of people moved. Like Kyiv was affected very significantly, about a month and a half, and Kharkiv was affected About 3 weeks ago, and a lot of people had to move to stay with friends or relatives, so outside of the city, who can, who cannot uh, heat their house with whatever they can, which can be sometimes dangerous ways of doing it. Like
Right,
if they
right.
have no electricity and no heat, they often have gas that's used for kitchen, and people would uh, keep that gas running all day long, and they put like a stove, a pot with water on it, or put some cement blocks, and that's dangerous because that creates carbon monoxide, and there've been some problems with that as well. But it's been very brutal winter. As to what is the most pressing needs of Ukraine, it's hard to say. There's many different pressing needs. Like Ukraine is really starving for missiles for air defense because the supplies from the United States had plummeted over this past year. Um, they receive very little supplies from the United States, and Europe had provided a little bit more, but it's not enough to cover the needs of the Ukrainian army. I spoke, I guess I kind of didn't mention this earlier. My connection with Ukraine is that
Hmm.
I'm Ukrainian. I grew up in Ukraine. I came to America over 30 years ago, but I still have family in eastern Ukraine, in Kharkiv and Poltava region. And in Kharkiv, they kind of have a lot of times that electricity gets turned off several times a day, basically trying to conserve electricity because there's not enough to be used. So they conserve that. In sort of central Ukraine, like Poltava region, they turn on electricity for a couple of hours a day, and the other 22 hours a day there will be no electricity. So that's been tough. But when I talk to my aunt, she's like, the situation with electricity is bad, and the heat is, they do have heat in their apartment, so that's kind of good. But she's like, we'll survive all this as long as there is no rockets flying out of our head, because realistically rockets flying over your head is the worst.
Right, right.
Because you can do something about lack of heat, such as maybe move to your relatives, but you cannot do anything if there is a missile flying right at you.
I think that what's lost on many people is the extreme attack on civilian targets. In most wars, you have the front line, and a lot of that is happening. A lot of the war, the major activities are happening, to gain ground. In this, I think what makes this particularly reprehensible on behalf of the Russians is that they are intentionally targeting civilian targets and trying to make life miserable and, if not impossible, for people, like these attacks on infrastructure, which really can threaten the lives of children and people that are non-combatants to the war per se. And how does that affect the morale of people? Because I know that reciprocally, Ukraine is not attacking the civilian population of Russia. Mainly Ukraine is attacking military installations, bases, maybe oil facilities that are helping to fuel the war infrastructure, but not targeting specifically civilians like Russia is.
Yes, you're very much correct. Yes, Russia had targeted a lot of civilian targets. Sometimes it's been stores, schools, museums, churches over the years, in addition to the energy sector. It is difficult. Like children. In Kharkiv, which is very close to the front lines, children has not been able to go to school for a very long time. First we had COVID, then there's 4 years of the war, and school is remote, except they do have like 2 schools operating in a subway system. But again, this is a city of 1.5 million people, at least that was the population before the war. So that covers only a small percentage of children. and a lot of children are going to school online. In sort of further inland, I have a friend in Kryvyi Rih who is a school teacher, and a school had set up class set up to have its bomb shelter. And as far as a school, because of the lack of the bomb shelter space, they alternate. Like 1 week, half of the children will go in person, half will be remote, and in the other week they will switch. And it is definitely deficient education. And then when kids come to school, they have to bring flashlights and power banks, because if there is a power outage, they, would be nice to at least have a flashlight or something else. And this says when there is air raids, which happen every day, they have to go to, the bomb shelter in the basement. And she's like, technically, we do have blackboards in the basement, but it's just like you cannot really teach children under those circumstances during an air raid. So the education definitely suffers. The morale definitely suffers. I think people are tired. If you think about it, 4 years, 4 years ago, we had the Olympics, the Winter Olympics. That's when the war invasion started, and we just finished another Olympics. That's how long this has been going on. It's a big chunk of somebody's life, 4 years.
How is morale-wise? How is it? How are people really coping with this complete experience that is turning their world upside down? Not only making it more dangerous and deadly, but disrupting every aspect of their lives.
I think it's difficult. I think this broke families. I think it broke many people. And the thing is that you don't really see immediate resolution. Like, I think when the war first started, you kind of think, okay, so there is a war, but we're going to win. The war is going to be over. We'll get some help from the West. At this point in time, they don't see the kind of resolution to this problem. It feels like the war is going to last forever. Mm-hmm. And in the sense that a lot of people they don't really want to leave their homes, even if they have an opportunity. A lot of people like to stay home, but for the vast majority of Ukrainians, they still don't want to be under the Russian occupation because that is even more dangerous than the Russian bombs. And they know from kind of vague communications with their relatives and from other sources that the parts of Ukraine that has been occupied by Russia is not treating Ukrainians well. They often they can get mobilized to the army to fight on the side of Russia. The children get kidnapped by the Russian government. Approximately 20,000 children have been kidnapped by the Russian government and taken deep into Russia, sometimes in Siberia, sometimes even into North Korea, depending on the age and other aspects of a child. Sometimes they could be put into concentration camps. Sometimes they can be put into foster families within Russia and try to re-educate in sort of Russian doctrine. So people sometimes lose their housing in the territories occupied by Russia. So despite all the bombs, vast majority of Ukrainians still would be more afraid if that city was occupied by Russia.
Is this an attempted genocide? I mean, they really, I feel like it seems more than just about the land or a culture clash. This is deeper than that.
Absolutely. It is. I do think that Russia wants Ukrainian land and Ukrainian natural resources, but I do think their goal is to eliminate Ukrainian identity and Ukrainian, nation. And I think that Ukrainian nation at this point in time, it's not like a homogenous as far as their sort of ethnic origin. It's also quite mixed as far as the ethnic origin group of people, because, over the past several hundred years, people moved around quite a bit. I mean, there is a very significant Jewish population in Ukraine. There is significant Russian population in Ukraine of people whose ancestors came to Ukraine like over the past 50 years. And as well as people from the rest of the world, maybe in smaller percentages. But yes, it is perceived by Russia as a sort of ethnic groups that cannot, the Russia cannot tolerate, and they are definitely determined in exterminating Ukraine as to culture and language as well.
And I also want to repeat what is often said, that this is not just a Ukraine issue; it's an entire European issue. This is a land grab, but it's also in line with Putin's grander scheme to return Russia to its former glory and truly go after some of those other territories. And so you guys are really on the front lines of holding democracy in Europe.
Yes. And unfortunately, geographically, Ukraine is located very close to the Russian Empire, which what Russia is, because if you look on the map and you say, oh, it's a big country, it is a big empire. The sort of the Russian territories that has always people spoken Russian language and sort of had Russian culture is actually a pretty small area in the European part of Russian Empire. But entire territory to the north, entire territory east of the Ural Mountains, so the entire Asian part of Russia, it is really a colony. It's still inhabited of people of Buryat, Yakut, and other ethnic groups that Russia had occupied and had plunged the natural resources for years, for hundreds of years, and had exterminated a lot of the population in that country. And actually often the recruits are from these ethnic minorities from the Asian part of Russian Empire that are fighting in a war in Ukraine. And Russia is continuing its imperialistic tendencies, and they will not stop at Ukraine. If they were able to capture Ukraine, they will continue expanding. And if you listen to Russian propaganda, that's what they're saying. Yes, this is our step, but then we basically want to build, rebuild the USSR type influence.
And you mentioned in the beginning some of the great organizations that you're affiliated with, and that are doing really great work on the ground here, raising money, continue to raise awareness, helping civilians who have been injured, helping soldiers who have been injured. Let's talk a little bit about those organizations that you're that you're involved in, that are really pivotal in helping keep the resources flowing so that the Ukrainians can defend themselves.
We organized just a rally this past weekend in Albany on Central Avenue, and just basically to show our support for Ukraine, attract attention of people coming by. We did invite some of the sort of local political leaders as well to the event.
When you say we, who do you mean?
Ukraine Solidarity Capital District,
okay,
and Ukrainian Congress Committee of America.
Okay.
And then the Ukrainian churches, they did organize like a prayer service just yesterday in Water Lead. We do encourage people to contact their elected official, congressmen and senators, and ask them to further support Ukraine. And what we feel America can really do is to further sanctions on Russia and eliminate loopholes that Russia is using, because the sanctions on Russia, even from the side of the United States, are not complete. There's still some trade that the United States is doing with Russia, and if we eliminate the loopholes, it will put more strain on Russian ability to sell oil, nuclear power plant fuel, and other resources, and it will put further economic stress on Russia. The other things we do, we organized a dance recently, and the money that we got sort of by selling tickets to the dance, we using to buy generators that are used for evacuation vehicles in Ukraine. We did a kind of a New Year's fundraiser that was organized by Ukrainian Congress Committee of America, Malanka, which was like a traditional New Year's celebration, and money generated from these projects were used to get some of the reconnaissance drones for Ukraine, as well as some of the winter gear for the soldiers. We also had fundraiser before Christmas when we did the Ukrainian Christmas market. And at that event, the proceeds went to Brave Children of Ukraine, which is an organization that essentially gives support and presence to children whose parents either were killed in the war in Ukraine, or currently serving in the Ukrainian military.
Wow.
We'll have a couple things coming up. We have some Easter egg decorating classes, one this coming Saturday, and then there will be another one in 2 weeks, also on Saturday in Waterloo. If anybody is interested to learn how to decorate traditional Ukrainian Easter eggs, that's a fun project to join. And then we are also hoping to have a sale around the Easter time. I guess another thing that I did not mention is that also sending a lot of medical supplies to Ukraine.
Right.
The church in Waterloo is very involved in that, and they shipped things by the truckload. I personally also collect some items and send them to kind of it's like a medical evacuation facilities near the front lines.
All these things are so incredibly important to be able to provide this care. I know that Medical Relief does medical relief on, medical care on the ground. They also do prosthetics to help wounded soldiers and just civilian people who've been wounded by the ravages of war. Again, primarily on civilians. It's such an enormous task. How do you keep motivated to be able to, to continue to help? And one of the things that you touched on was the attacks have been so ferocious, and the electricity has been out in many areas for such a long time that all the all the generators that are in use that they can get, they're like the whole area is sold out, because people now need generators in order to have somewhat of a consistent electricity, but also providing heat. So how do you keep motivated, and what do you say to your fellow team members to be able to keep them going?
I don't think I need to say anything. I think people understand, because if you sort of follow the news, you will know it. And if anybody who has, relatives in Ukraine, they will know it. I was
Right.
trying to invite a girl to when we had this dance just a few weeks ago, and was told no, she cannot come because her brother-in-law just, was killed in action in Ukraine.
Right.
And myself, I wake up in the morning and I usually check the news to sort of see which parts of Ukraine were hit. And it is every morning that every night that some part of Ukraine will get hit away from the front lines,
Right. Right.
further into the territory. And if it's, in my city, which Kharkov, almost every night there is something in your city, and I, call relatives, see how they are, which is, I guess that's for me. That's enough motivation is to try to help to see that my family is alive.
I understand. I understand. What would you say? We're coming up on the toward the end of our interview today. What would you say to people about why they should join an organization, or what should they do in order to help?
I think important is to let our government, president, Congress, Senate knows that the American people care about the war in Ukraine. And I think American people very much still care, but kind of remind us it's not something that's normal. Even it's going on for 4 years, we still care. We still want this resolution to this war and to stop dragging their feet and finally do sanctions on Russia that would be meaningful and meaningfully damage Russian economy. And and not worry about upsetting Putin because Putin is not worried about upsetting anybody else, and provide Ukraine enough help. So I would appreciate if people who listen to this program would call or email the president and their representatives for support of Ukraine. And there are nice opportunities to learn more about Ukrainian culture, maybe participate in one of these events and help Ukraine with some of the things that we do for the civilian population, such as probably right now energy is the most important, which would be
Yes.
heat lamps and generators.
Now
And
I
power
know.
banks.
Do you know of the Facebook pages? I know there's Medical Relief for Ukraine, and I know the website. Just because I do, as I speak to them pretty frequently. Can you direct any our people, our listeners, to like the
Yeah,
the
so
Facebook pages?
you will find information on 518 Ukrainians. It's like a area code 518
Yep. Yep.
Ukrainians on Facebook. And there's also 518ukrainians.com website and Ukraine Solidarity Capital District Facebook page. You can contact us, and if anybody wants to, join the email list and participate in events, you'll find more information there.
Well, thank you, Anna, so much. We're going to be checking back in with you later in the year as things develop, or as you have new events. And I echo everything that you said about supporting and getting involved and staying involved. Even though this might not be in the headlines every day or in every news cycle, this is still an ongoing situation, and it's vital that people participate, help, contribute, and really be part of the solution because this is it's an entire country that is under attack, and we need to stand united with the folks in Ukraine to do everything that we can to repel that and to stop that and to block Russia from taking over. So I thank you so much for spending some time with us and explaining what's going on. And I look forward to continuing to work with all your organizations and help you any way that I can.
Thank you, Randall.
And thank you. And we're going to take a break. This is the Tuesday Afternoon Radio Show with your host, Randall Martin. So glad you can join us today. Thank you for tuning in, but we're not finished. We've got a lot of show left, but we're going to take a tune and we'll be right back. Again, on WGXC, the Tuesday Afternoon Radio Show. It's 90.7 K-Row, Catskill, Hudson. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.